High Chancellor Zorath slammed his 12-fingered hand onto the massive crystalline table, sending ripples of light across its surface. The emergency meeting chamber of the Galactic Council had never felt so tense in its 1,000-year history. "What do you mean they're attacking Terra?" he thundered, his voice breaking with stress. "The humans have barely achieved interplanetary travel." Admiral Lyra, the military liaison, stood rigid before the assembled representatives of the 50 most powerful species in the known universe. Her scales shimmered with anxiety as the holographic display behind her showed real-time footage of the invasion. "The Draconis Armada entered Terra's solar system 6 hours ago," she reported. "Over 300 warships have positioned themselves in orbit around the planet." Representative Corbin from the Trade Federation nervously adjusted his breathing apparatus. "This makes no tactical sense. Terra holds no strategic value. They have no valuable resources we haven't found elsewhere. Humans aren't even full members of the Council yet. That's precisely why the Draconis chose them," said Ambassador Zylar, the oldest member present. Her milky eyes blinked slowly as she considered the implications. "They believe we won't defend a species still in its infancy." The chamber fell silent as the tactical display updated. The massive Draconis vessels, each capable of leveling continents, had arranged themselves in a perfect blockade pattern around Terra. The blue-green planet looked impossibly small and vulnerable beneath their shadow. "We must vote immediately on intervention," Zorath said. "The accords are clear. Unprovoked aggression against developing worlds is forbidden." Representative Valen of the Military Alliance leaned forward. "The Draconis are testing us. They want to see if we'll honor our commitments to non-member worlds. If we abandon Terra, they'll know the accords are meaningless. Humans don't even know about us yet," protested Representative KL of the Science Directorate. "Our observation posts have remained hidden. This will be a catastrophic first contact scenario." Admiral Lara cleared her throat. "Actually, that's not entirely accurate." She tapped to her control pad and the display shifted to a new image. A crude human space vessel approaching one of the Draconis warships. "The humans have launched a response?" Zorath asked incredulously. 37 of them to be precise," Lyra replied. "Small craft, likely their most advanced military vessels. Completely outmatched, of course, but they're not retreating." The Council watched in stunned silence as the human ships positioned themselves between the Draconis Armada and Terra. They were tiny specks against the massive enemy vessels, like insects challenging mountains. "They're going to be annihilated," Corbin whispered. Ambassador Zylar tilted her ancient head. "Perhaps, but observe. They're forming a defensive perimeter. They know they cannot win, yet they position themselves to absorb the first assault." "Admirable, but futile," Valen said. "The Draconis will..." He stopped mid-sentence as the display updated. The Draconis fleet had opened fire, devastating energy weapons lancing toward the human defenders. The Council members collectively held their breath. Then something unexpected happened. The human vessels didn't explode. Instead, they seemed to absorb the energy blasts, their hulls glowing briefly before returning to normal. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Lyra, checking her instruments. "Those ships should have been vaporized instantly." The display showed the human vessels returning fire, their weapons appearing primitive yet somehow effective against the Draconis shields. "How is this possible?" Zorath demanded. "Their technology is centuries behind the Draconis." Ambassador Zylar leaned forward, her ancient eyes widening. "Because it's not their technology. Those aren't human ships." The chamber erupted in confused chatter until Zorath called for order. "Explain, Ambassador." "Look at their formation," Zylar said, pointing a gnarled finger at the display. "Those aren't Terra's defenders. Those are our observation vessels, piloted by our agents stationed there to monitor human development. They've broken protocol and revealed themselves." Admiral Lyra checked her data and nodded slowly. "She's right. I'm detecting Council identification signatures. Our observers have intervened. This is unprecedented," Kale said. "The non-interference directive is absolute." "And yet," Zylar replied, "our own people chose to defend a species they've been watching, rather than allow their destruction." The display updated again. The Draconis warships were retreating, clearly unprepared for the resistance they'd encountered. "The commander of our Terra observation post is requesting direct communication," said Admiral Lyra. Zorath nodded, and the holographic display shifted to show a humanoid figure one of their agents disguised to blend among humans. "Observer Base Commander Thorne reporting," said the figure. "We apologize for breaking protocol, but we couldn't stand by while the Draconis attacked." "You've exposed yourself to the humans," Zorath stated gravely. "The contamination cannot be undone," Commander Thorne nodded. "We understand the consequences. But after living among them for decades, we felt compelled to act. The humans would have done the same for us. How did they respond to your revelation?" Ambassador Zorath asked. Thorne's expression softened. "That's why I'm calling." "They knew." A shocked silence fell over the council chamber. "They've known about us for years," Thorne continued. "Their intelligence agencies detected our presence but kept it secret, allowing us to observe them undisturbed. They understood we meant no harm. And now, their leaders have requested formal diplomatic relations with the council," Thorne said. "Not out of fear or anger, but partnership. They're already mobilizing their own defenses in case the Draconis return." The tactical display showed thousands of small craft launching from Terra, a planet-wide response forming a secondary defensive perimeter. "They're not asking for technology or weapons," Thorne explained. "Just the chance to join the wider community of worlds as equals." Admiral Lyra studied the human deployment with growing respect. "Their tactics are unconventional but effective. They're coordinating with our vessels seamlessly." Ambassador Zorath smiled for the first time. "Perhaps we've underestimated them." Zorath looked around the chamber at the faces of the most powerful beings in the galaxy and saw a new emotion replacing their earlier dread: wonder. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we must reconsider Terra's application for council membership." He paused, watching the cooperation between their observers and the humans unfolding on the display. "And I believe we all owe the Draconis a debt of gratitude." "For attacking Terra?" Corbin asked, confused. "For showing us," Zorath said, "that sometimes the strength of a species isn't measured by their technology or resources, but by who will stand beside them when threats arise." He straightened his robes and addressed the council formally. "I call for an immediate vote on expedited membership status for Terra." As hands, tentacles, and appendages of all kinds raised in unanimous approval, the Galactic Council realized that the day they had dreaded, first contact with humanity, had instead become a day of celebration. The Draconis had meant to expose the Council's weakness. Instead, they had revealed its greatest strength. The Council chambers buzzed with an energy rarely felt. The unanimous vote for Terra's expedited membership was more than just a formality. It was a seismic shift in galactic policy. Never before had a species so young, so new to the cosmic stage, been granted such an honor, let alone under such dramatic circumstances. High Chancellor Zorath immediately convened a first contact delegation, personally leading the mission to Terra. Accompanying him were Ambassador Zorath, whose wisdom was now seen as prophetic, Admiral Lyra, tasked with coordinating defenses with the nascent Terran fleets, and Representative KL, whose scientific curiosity bordered on obsession regarding humanity's hidden capabilities. Their arrival in Terra's orbit was met not with fear, but with an almost overwhelming display of human ingenuity. Thousands of civilian and military craft, from crude orbital shuttles to sleek interceptors, formed an honor guard around the Council's majestic flagship, the Beacon. It was clear the humans had used every moment since the Draconis retreat to prepare, not for another attack, but for this. Commander Thorne, the observer who had defied protocol, was the first to greet them. His human disguise seemed less like a costume and more like a second skin. "Chancellor Zorath, esteemed council members," he said, his voice imbued with a newfound authority. "Welcome to Terra. Our leaders are eager to meet you." As they descended through Terra's vibrant atmosphere, the council members were struck by the sheer diversity of the planet. Verdant continents sprawled beneath them, dotted with gleaming megacities and sprawling natural reserves. It was a world teeming with life, a stark contrast to the sterile, utilitarian homeworlds of many older species. The landing platform was a marvel of Terran engineering, a vast circular expanse of shimmering material nestled between towering, organic-looking skyscrapers. Waiting for them was a delegation of Terran leaders, a mix of ages, genders, and ethnicities, all radiating a curious blend of humility and quiet strength. The lead delegate, a woman with piercing blue eyes and a calm demeanor, stepped forward. "Chancellor Zorath, I am Anya Sharma, Prime Minister of the Terran Coalition. On behalf of all humanity, we thank you for your unexpected intervention." and for your willingness to understand." Zorath, usually so composed, found himself momentarily speechless. The honesty in her voice, the lack of pretense or fear, was disarming. "Prime Minister Sharma," he replied, recovering, "the honor is ours. Your people's courage and ingenuity have proven most illuminating." The initial diplomatic meetings were a whirlwind. Humans, unlike any species the Council had encountered, were direct, inquisitive, and possessed a surprising grasp of galactic geopolitics, thanks to Thorne's clandestine reports. They readily admitted their technological limitations in some areas, but highlighted their strengths: unparalleled adaptability, rapid innovation, and a fierce, almost irrational loyalty to one another. It was during these discussions that the true depth of humanity's secret was revealed. "We detected your observation post decades ago," Prime Minister Sharma explained, a wry smile playing on her lips. "Not through conventional means, but through an emerging field we call quantum entanglement pattern analysis. We realized you meant no harm, and in fact your presence provided a fascinating data set for our own understanding of advanced civilizations." KL gasped. "Quantum entanglement pattern analysis? That's theoretical physics even for the Council's most advanced research facilities." "Indeed," Sharma nodded. "Our breakthroughs in that field were accelerated by certain historical events. Events that also led to the development of our adaptive energy absorption shields, the ones your observers used against the Draconis. This was the bombshell. Not only had humans known, but their very awareness of the Council had spurred technological leaps far beyond what was publicly known. And these historical events," Zorath pressed, a flicker of concern in his multifaceted eyes. Prime Minister Sharma's smile faded. "Centuries ago, Terra faced a threat, an internal one that pushed us to the brink of self-annihilation. It forced us to adapt, to innovate, or perish. We learned to harness forces we barely understood, to unify in ways previously unimaginable. And we learned to keep certain advancements discreet, for our own protection." A sense of unease settled over the Council delegation. Humanity wasn't just brave, they were secretive, resourceful, and alarmingly capable. The Draconis attack, meant to expose the Council's weakness, had instead brought to light a species that might, in time, become one of the galaxy's most formidable. News of Terra's expedited membership rippled through the galactic community, met with a mix of awe, skepticism, and outright hostility. The Draconis, humiliated by their swift retreat, vehemently protested the Council's decision, branding it an act of favoritism and a violation of established protocols. Their protests, however, only served to highlight their own aggression and strengthen the Council's resolve. Meanwhile, on Terra, the integration process began. Admiral Lyra's task was monumental: to bridge the vast technological gap between the Terran Coalition Defense Force and the Council's unified fleets. Yet she found the humans surprisingly quick studies. Their ability to rapidly reverse engineer and adapt foreign technology was astounding. Within weeks, basic Council comm systems were being integrated into Terran ships, and human engineers were already proposing modifications that intrigued even the most seasoned Council experts. "Their minds work differently," Lyra reported to Zorath. "They don't just learn, they reimagine. It's almost disruptive." KL, now a constant fixture in Terran research facilities, was equally fascinated and unnerved. He discovered that Terra's quantum entanglement pattern analysis wasn't just theoretical. It was operational, allowing them to detect subtle energy fluctuations across vast distances far beyond the Council's most sensitive sensors. This was how they had detected the observers. This was also, Kegel suspected, how they truly saw the Draconis. "Chancellor," Kale reported one cycle, his voice hushed. "Their internal conflict, the historical event Prime Minister Sharma mentioned, it was more than just a war. It was a race against extinction, propelled by a unique form of energy manipulation they discovered. They call it resonance energy." Zorath's multiple eyes widened. "Resonance energy? That's a highly unstable, highly destructive force. It's strictly forbidden by galactic law for any offensive application. Why would they research such a thing?" "It seems," Kale explained, "their internal aggressors were utilizing a crude form of it. To combat it, humanity had to develop their own, more refined, and ultimately defensive applications. Their adaptive energy absorption shields are a direct result. They don't just block energy, they reharmonize it, rendering it inert. This revelation sent a chill down Zorath's spine. Humanity hadn't just overcome a crisis. They had danced with oblivion and emerged with a dangerous, yet potentially invaluable understanding of a forbidden energy. The Draconis attack was not just a test of the Council. It was a cosmic stroke of luck that brought this hidden power to light. The fragile peace was shattered. Months after their humiliation, the Draconis Armada returned, larger and more formidable than before. This time, they didn't just target Terra. Their fleet split, with one massive contingent heading directly for the Council's central hub, Creen Prime, while the main force, now numbering over 500 warships, resumed its blockade of Terra. "They're not just testing us now, Chancellor," Admiral Lyra declared, her voice grim as the tactical display showed the overwhelming enemy numbers. "They're attempting to decapitate the Council and subjugate Terra simultaneously. This is total war." The Council's unified fleet, though powerful, was spread thin across the vast galaxy. Reinforcements would take precious cycles to arrive. Terra, however, was ready. "Prime Minister Sharma, Commander Thorne," Lyra broadcasted, her image projected into the Terran war room. "The Draconis are back. Their intent is clear." Sharma's face was resolute. "We anticipated this, Admiral. Our planet-wide defenses are fully operational. Our secondary perimeter, bolstered by Council defense drones, is deployed. We will hold." But the sheer scale of the Draconis attack was unprecedented. Their new ships were larger, equipped with what appeared to be enhanced shield-breaking weaponry. Wave after wave of Draconis fighters poured into Terra's atmosphere, engaging the combined Terran Council defense forces in brutal orbital skirmishes. On Cryon Prime, the Council's limited defense fleet struggled against the Draconis onslaught. Panic began to spread through the Creonian capital. "We need a decisive countermeasure," Zorath roared, pacing his command center on Cryon Prime. "Something to break their morale, to show them the true cost of their arrogance." It was then that Thorne's voice cut through the comms. "Chancellor, we have a proposal from Prime Minister Sharma. A daring one. It involves utilizing our full capabilities." "Explain," Zorath demanded. "The Draconis fleet formation," Thorne began, "is designed for overwhelming brute force. But it has a critical weakness, one we can exploit using our resonance energy research. If we can get a sufficiently large Terran vessel, or a converted Council ship, into their core formation, we can initiate a localized resonance cascade. It won't destroy them, but it will destabilize their core systems, rendering them vulnerable and forcing a full retreat." KL, listening in, knew the immense risks. A resonance cascade, if uncontrolled, could devastate an entire stellar system. "But if controlled, what are the chances of success, Commander?" Lyra asked, her scales rippling with tension. "High, with the right coordination. We've been training for this. But it requires a direct, deep penetration into their lines. It will be a suicide mission for the pilot." A stunned silence. Then Prime Minister Sharma's voice broke through. "I will pilot it." "Absolutely not," Zorath protested. "You are the leader of your people." "Precisely," Sharma's voice was firm. "It is my duty to ensure their survival, and to show the Draconis that humanity will not break. Besides," she added, a hint of defiance in her tone, "I'm the best pilot for this. I've been overseeing the resonance research from its inception." Zorath knew arguing was futile. He could see the unwavering determination in her eyes. "Very well, Prime Minister. Admiral Lyra, assign a task force to support her. KL, assist Commander Thorne with the technical parameters. We put our faith in humanity." The plan was set into motion. A modified Council heavy cruiser, stripped of non-essential systems and retrofitted with Terran resonance emitters, became the spearhead. Prime Minister Sharma, clad in a sleek pilot suit, boarded with a small team of Terran engineers and Commander Thorne. The battle raged in Terra's orbit. Draconis warships exchanged volleys with Council and Terran defenders, the void filled with the bright flashes of energy weapons and the debris of destroyed vessels. It was a brutal dance of death, pushing both sides to their limits. The spearhead, escorted by a squadron of Terran interceptors and Council gunships, plunged into the heart of the Draconis formation. The enemy fleet, focused on overwhelming the defenders, was slow to react to this single, determined push. But soon their formidable heavy cruisers brought their fire to bear. "Shields at 60 per," shouted a Terran engineer. "Keep pushing," Sharma commanded, her hands a blur over the controls. "Thorne, ready the emitters." On Cryon Prime, Zorath watched the tactical display, his multiple hearts pounding. He saw the spearhead, a tiny beacon of hope, piercing the Draconis' seemingly impenetrable wall. "They're taking heavy fire," Lyra exclaimed. "They won't make it." Just as the spearhead's shields flickered dangerously, a wave of human interceptors, seemingly from nowhere, burst forth from Terra's shadow, drawing critical fire away from the cruiser. It was a desperate, suicidal diversion, showcasing the humans' unwavering loyalty. "Now, Thorne," Sharma yelled. Commander Thorne, his face grim but determined, activated the resonance emitters. A blinding wave of pure, shimmering energy erupted from the spearhead, not a destructive blast, but a silent, pervasive ripple that began to spread through the Draconis fleet. On the Draconis ships, chaos erupted. Consoles flickered, systems went haywire, and weapons arrays spun wildly out of control. Their meticulously synchronized blockade formation began to unravel as ships drifted aimlessly or collided with one another. Their shields, designed to absorb kinetic and energy attacks, were utterly helpless against the subtle, destabilizing frequency of the resonance cascade. "It's working!" Kale cried out from Cryon Prime, his face illuminated by the cascade's effects on the display. "Their core systems are collapsing. Their command and control network is in disarray." The Draconis fleet, caught completely off guard, was unable to maintain its assault. Disorganized and vulnerable, their remaining ships began a panicked, uncoordinated retreat, leaving behind a trail of disabled vessels and shattered morale. The battle was won, not by overwhelming force, but by ingenuity, courage, and a deep, dangerous understanding of a forbidden energy. The aftermath was profound. The Draconis were utterly defeated, their power broken. But the victory came with a cost. Prime Minister Sharma, though alive, was gravely injured. The resonance cascade had taken a toll on the spearhead, and by extension, on her. Commander Thorne remained by her side, a silent testament to the bond formed between human and observer. In the council chambers, a new reverence for humanity had settled. The emergency session was no longer about crisis management, but about solidifying Terra's place in the galactic order. Their courage and their unique, terrifyingly effective technology had cemented their position. "Terra's full membership is now undeniable," Zorath declared, his voice filled with newfound respect. "And their expertise in resonance energy, while dangerous, is a crucial asset for galactic defense, provided it is used responsibly." The Council agreed to establish a joint Terran Council research initiative to study resonance energy, with strict oversight and ethical guidelines. Kael, elated, volunteered to lead the Council's efforts. But as the celebrations began on Terra and the galactic community breathed a collective sigh of relief, a new, chilling discovery was made by the Council's long-range sensors. Far beyond Draconis space, in the uncharted dark reaches of the galaxy, a signature was detected. A signature that, while different, bore a disturbing resemblance to the Draconis' energy output. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Chancellor," Admiral Lyra reported, her face grim, "our deep space probes have picked up something, an energy signature. It's distant, but it's growing." Zorath's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "From where, Admiral?" "The uncharted territories beyond the Draconis hegemony," Lyra replied. "It's far from any known civilization. But the pattern, it's similar to the Draconis' core weapon emissions, only amplified. More refined. It suggests they weren't acting alone. That they were proxies." A collective gasp swept through the chamber. The Draconis, once thought to be the apex predator of their region, had been nothing more than a pawn in a larger, darker game. "This changes everything," Ambassador Xylar whispered, her ancient eyes wide with a fear Zorath had never seen before. The Draconis were not the true threat. They were merely the first wave. The celebration on Terra slowly morphed into a quiet resolve. Humanity, having just joined the galactic community, now faced a threat far greater than they could have imagined. But they were no longer alone. With their newfound allies, their unique understanding of resonance, and their unyielding spirit, Humanity was ready to face whatever darkness lurked in the uncharted depths of the cosmos. Their first contact had not been with friends, but with fire, forging them into a crucial new player in the coming galactic conflict. The galaxy, having found its newest and most unpredictable member, braced itself for the true war that was yet to come.